Closer than we've ever been.
Contract agent or a lioness?
Lioness, sir. We kill the target.
It's over before it's begun.
There's really no means to abort.
We move now! Her cover's low! It's that court! Shoot it!
A woman is on her knees. Guns are pointed at her head. She knows this is the last minute of her life. And instead of crying, instead of begging, she looks into the eyes of the men who are about to end her and makes them a promise. She tells them she will kill every single one of them. Not someday. Not in some future life. Before they can pull the trigger, she wants them to understand exactly what they are dealing with. This is the moment that opens the new trailer for Lioness Season 3 Episode 4, and it is one of the most chilling seconds this show has ever given us. Because this is not a villain talking. This is not a random extra written in for shock value. This is someone trained the same way Joe is trained, someone who has been taught to turn even the final seconds of her life into a weapon. And once you understand who this woman might be and what she represents, the entire trailer stops looking like a simple spy thriller teaser and starts looking like a warning aimed straight at Joe. To understand why this single scene hits so hard, you have to remember what Season 3 has already put Joe through. This is not a woman starting from a place of safety. This is a woman who has spent 3 episodes getting pulled deeper and deeper into a war she thought she had already walked away from. It started with a mission in Ukraine, a job that dragged her out of 2 years of quiet family life and threw her back into the middle of a shadow conflict with Russian intelligence. She got the job done, but it cost her something, and the show made sure we felt that cost before she even had a chance to catch her breath. Then, just when it looked like she might get to go home and close the door on that part of her life again, the war followed her. Armed men showed up at her own house. The wall she spent years building between her job and her family, the wall that was supposed to keep her children safe from exactly this kind of danger, came crashing down in a single night. That is not a small moment for a character like Joe. That is the moment her two lives, the operative and the mother, stopped being separate and started bleeding into each other for good. Episode 2 twisted the knife even further. Joe was kidnapped. The same network she thought she had dealt with in Ukraine turned out to be closer and more organized than anyone realized. And worse, it became clear that someone on the inside may have leaked the information that put her in danger in the first place. That single idea, the idea of a leak, changes everything about how you watch this season. Once you know there is a traitor somewhere close to the operation, you cannot fully trust anyone again. Not her team, not her handlers, not the people who are supposed to have her back. By episode 3, that suspicion turned into direct action. Joe stopped waiting for orders from above and took matters into her own hands, driving her team into a dangerous plan designed specifically to flush out whoever had been feeding information to the enemy. That is the moment the season stopped being about an outside threat and became something far more dangerous. A fight against an enemy that could be standing right next to you and smiling in your face. And that brings us to episode 4. The episode everyone is talking about right now because of this trailer. The official description tells us that Joe leads the hunt as her team uncovers a hidden network operating through covert handlers, while Caitlin and Westfield scramble to figure out just how serious this threat really is. On paper, that sounds like a fairly standard spy thriller setup. But when you place it next to the trailer's most shocking image, a woman calmly promising death to the people who are about to kill her, the entire episode takes on a different weight. This is not just about finding a hidden network anymore. This is about facing an enemy disciplined enough to train its people to die without giving anything away. And that changes the stakes for everyone involved, including Joe herself. Because if the enemy is willing to go this far to protect their secrets, there is no telling how far they are willing to go to protect themselves once they realize they are being hunted. Let's slow down and really sit with that opening scene, because it deserves it. A person who knows they are about to die usually reacts in one of 2 ways. They break, or they hold on to whatever power they have left with everything they've got. This woman chooses a second path, and she chooses it in the most extreme way the show could possibly write it. She does not ask for mercy. She does not try to bargain her way out of the room. She looks directly at the people who are seconds away from killing her and promises them death in return, as if the outcome of her own life is almost beside the point. That is not how an innocent, terrified person behaves. That is how someone behaves when they have been trained for this exact moment. Trained to understand that even your very last breath can be used as a weapon against the people trying to break you. This is where the idea of a ghost network becomes so important too. Understanding what episode 4 is really about. In the world of intelligence, a ghost network is a system of agents and informants that operates completely outside official channels. No paper trail, no clear chain of command. People who exist in the spaces between countries, passing information back and forth through handlers who may not even fully know who they are working for or why. If Jo is hunting a ghost network in this episode, she is not simply chasing down one enemy. She's chasing an entire structure, a web of people who can vanish and reappear under different names in different cities, loyal to whoever happens to be paying them that week. That is exactly the kind of enemy that turns a straightforward mission into total chaos. And it is exactly the kind of enemy capable of producing a scene like the one we see in this trailer. A woman surrounded, seconds from death, and still refusing to give an inch. If this woman has any connection to the Lioness program, even a loose one, her defiance in her final moments becomes something much bigger than a single scary scene. It becomes a message aimed directly at Jo. It tells her that whoever is running this network trains their people the exact same way she trains hers, to never stop fighting even when the fight is already lost. Think about what that means for Jo personally. She has spent years building a program around the idea that her people are the most disciplined, the most prepared, the hardest to break. And now she is staring down an enemy that appears to operate by the exact same rules. That is not a comfortable realization for someone who has always believed her side had an edge. It suggests that whoever built this ghost network understands exactly how Jo thinks, exactly how she trains her operatives, and may have built their entire structure specifically to survive contact with someone like her. And if that is true, then this is not just a hunt for a hidden enemy. This is a collision between two systems built on the same brutal philosophy. And only one of them is going to come out on top. Now let's talk about the title fragment that might be the quietest but most terrifying part of this entire trailer. The idea that the breach has officially become a manhunt. Up until this point, the leak inside the Lioness program has been treated as a problem you solve quietly. Find it, isolate it, deal with it before it does any more damage without letting the outside world know your operation has been compromised. A manhunt is a completely different animal. A manhunt means the situation has escalated past the point of containment. It means someone specific is now being actively chased out in the open, with urgency, because the danger of letting that person stay free has become greater than the danger of exposing the operation by chasing them publicly. That is a massive shift in tone for this show. It tells us that whatever Jo's team uncovers in this episode is serious enough that she can no longer afford to play this quietly. She has to move fast, and moving fast in this world almost always means someone ends up getting hurt. Add to that the fact that Caitlin and Westfield are described as running out of time, and the pressure on this episode becomes even heavier. Nicole Kidman's Caitlin Mead and Michael Kelly's Byron Westfield are not field operatives in the traditional sense. They sit above the mission. They are supposed to see the bigger picture, manage the politics, and make sure Jo's team has the support and cover they need to survive whatever they run into on the ground. When people at that level are described as running out of time, it usually means the threat has grown faster than their ability to control it. Whatever they are trying to assess, whatever risk they are trying to measure before it spirals out of control, the clock is beating them. And here is the part that should really worry fans watching this unfold. When the people managing a covert operation fall behind the curve, it is not them who pay the price for that gap. It is the people actually in the field. It is Jo and her team, out there in real danger while the people responsible for backing them up are still trying to catch up to what is actually happening. There is also a deeper layer of danger hiding inside the idea of a hidden network built through covert handlers specifically. A handler in this world is the person who manages an asset, someone who receives information, gives instructions, and keeps that asset protected and functioning while operating inside hostile territory. If this ghost network is built around layers of covert handlers, that means there are multiple levels of people involved, each one only knowing a small piece of the full picture. That kind of structure is incredibly hard to destroy, because taking out one handler does not expose the entire system. It just cuts off a single branch while the rest of the network keeps operating quietly in the dark, waiting to reroute around the damage. For Joe's team, that almost guarantees episode 4 will not end with a clean, satisfying victory. It is far more likely to end with more questions than answers. A few pieces of the puzzle solved while a much larger and far more dangerous picture slowly comes into focus behind them. One of the biggest reasons Lioness works as well as it does is that the show refuses to let the personal side of these characters disappear. Even when the mission gets more dangerous by the episode, Jo is not just a CIA station chief in this story. She's a mother and a wife trying to hold a family together while her job actively puts the people she loves in danger every single day. Every time the show raises the professional stakes, it raises the personal stakes right alongside it. And episode 4 looks ready to push that pattern even further. If the network Jo is hunting has any connection at all to the people who already attacked her house or arranged her kidnapping earlier this season, then this episode is not just about catching an enemy anymore. It is about protecting her family from an enemy that has already proven it knows exactly where to find her. An enemy that has already crossed the line from professional threat into personal invasion once, and could easily do it again. There is also the question of trust inside Joe's own team. And this is where things get genuinely uncomfortable to think about. Once a breach has been confirmed, as it was by the end of episode 3, every single interaction after that point carries a different weight than it used to. When Jo gives an order in episode 4, is she giving it to a team she can fully rely on? Or is she giving it to a group where at least one person might still be compromised, still feeding information somewhere it should not be going? That uncertainty is exactly what makes a manhunt so much more dangerous than a normal mission. You are not just hunting the enemy out there in the open. You are simultaneously managing the possibility that the enemy is standing right next to you, wearing a friendly face, waiting for the wrong moment to make one small mistake count. One wrong move, one piece of information shared with the wrong person at the wrong time, and the hunters could become the hunted in a matter of seconds. This is also a good moment to think about how Lioness has handled turning points like this in previous seasons. Because Taylor Sheridan clearly has a pattern he likes to build and then twist. Season 1 spent weeks slowly building toward a single explosive mission, letting the audience sit with Cruz and the family she was infiltrating before everything fell apart all at once. Season 2 threw Jo and her team back into action through the kidnapping of a member of Congress. And it also leaned heavily on the idea of an asset who might not be fully loyal. Someone the team had to watch carefully because one wrong move could expose the entire operation. Season 3 is clearly pulling from both of those ideas, but it is combining them in a way we have not quite seen before. This time, the disloyalty is not contained to a single recruit or a single mission. It has crawled inside the walls of the Lioness program itself. That means the stakes are no longer about whether one operation succeeds or fails. They are about whether the entire program can survive being compromised from the inside out. And that is a far scarier question for Jo to be facing than anything she has dealt with so far. There is one more layer worth thinking about before we get to episode 4. And it is the emotional toll this kind of hunt is going to take on Jo specifically. Every season, we watch her try to draw a clear line between the woman who runs deadly operations and the woman who just wants to be present for her own family. That line has been getting thinner with every episode this season, and a manhunt against a hidden, well-organized network is not something you can simply leave behind at the end of the day. It follows her home. It follows her into her relationship, into the way she looks at her own children, wondering if the same shadows chasing this network could just as easily turn around and chase her family next. If this show stays true to what has made it work for 3 seasons now, expect episode 4 to spend just as much time on that quiet, personal fear as it does on the loud, external chase playing out on screen. We also cannot ignore what this means for the people working directly under Joe. A ghost network built around covert handlers is designed specifically to survive contact with law enforcement and intelligence agencies. It expects to be hunted eventually, and it plans for exactly that outcome. Which means whoever built this network almost certainly has contingency plans already in motion. Ways to disappear, ways to erase connections, maybe even ways to strike back directly at the people trying to expose them. That last possibility is the one that should worry fans the most heading into this episode. If the network realizes it is being actively hunted, it may decide that simply going quiet is no longer enough to protect itself. It may decide the safest option left is to eliminate the threat directly. And that threat is Joe and everyone on her team. Every single piece of evidence in this trailer points toward an episode that refuses to give its audience an easy answer. The woman who chooses to die defiant tells us the enemy is disciplined, trained, and dangerous in ways we have not seen from this show before. The idea of a ghost network tells us this threat cannot be solved with one clean strike, no matter how well Joe's team executes their plan. The shift from a quiet internal breach to a full manhunt tells us the danger has grown too large to manage quietly anymore. And Caitlin and Westfield running out of time tells us that even the people with the most experience and the most resources are struggling to keep up with how fast this entire situation is moving underneath them. When you put all of these pieces together, episode 4 stops looking like just another hour of television. It starts looking like the turning point this entire season has been quietly building towards since that very first mission in Ukraine. So here is the real question heading into this episode. Can Joe expose this ghost network before it costs her team, or her family, everything they have left? Can Caitlin and Westfield close the gap in time to actually help her, or will their delay end up being the reason someone else does not survive what is coming? And who exactly was that woman in the trailer? The one who looked her killers in the eye and chose defiance over mercy in her final seconds. What did she know that was worth dying to protect? Every answer episode 4 gives us is almost certainly going to open up new questions right behind it. And if this trailer is any real indication of what is coming, the breach that started as a quiet, internal problem has now become a full, out in the open manhunt. One that is about to demand absolutely everything Joe has left to give.